Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're building on some previous ideas like radical truth, the five-step process, and we're looking at a really powerful metaphor, viewing your organization, your team, even your life as a machine.
That's the core idea, yeah.
Hmm.
Dalio's point is that the best managers, they aren't just, stuck in the day-to-day, they're engineers.
Engineers, how so?
Well, their real job is to step back, design the system, figure out why it breaks down sometimes, and crucially, keep improving it.
Hmm.
And he talks about this machine having two key parts, right? The culture and the people. They're totally interconnected.
Okay, so it's a metaphor, but how does thinking this way actually change things?
It forces a big psychological shift. You
Yeah.
have to learn to separate you, the designer of the machine, from you, the worker in the machine.
So that's the detachment piece. It sounds like that practical application of radical truth we talked about, seeing things objectively.
Exactly. Without the ego, without the emotion clouding your judgment. That objectivity is, well, it's key.
So we're going to look at how you actually design this machine, make it clear, accountable.
Yep. And also how to diagnose it when it, sputters. Because problems aren't just failures. Dalio sees them as potential improvements.
Screaming at you. I like that framing.
Right. And that leads to this really critical diagnostic question. Is the person responsible actually incapable? Or is the design itself bad?
That's interesting. It forces you away from just blaming someone.
Totally. It's about systemic thinking, finding the root cause.
And the bigger picture here is that a good system can actually be more powerful than just having a few star performers, building something that lasts.
Like Bridgewater, his goal was always to build something that could run without him. A reliable, scalable machine. So, where do you start with designing it?
Good question. Let's get into the blueprint.
Okay, design starts with a really clear top-down structure. Think like an org chart with very clear lines, no crossing streams.
So everyone knows exactly who they report to.
Precisely. And if an issue cuts across different areas, it has to go up to a single person who can make the call. Clarity is everything.
And you mentioned accountability. How do you make sure things don't just fall through the cracks with like that vague, we should do something feeling?
And that's where responsible parties, or RPs, come in. Dalio is big on this. No more anonymous we or they.
So every task, every outcome has a specific name attached.
Yes, good or bad. It sounds simple, but it cuts through so much confusion and, frankly, avoidance.
Okay, structure and RPs. What else makes the machine run smoothly?
Rhythm, predictability. He uses two main tools here. First, process flow diagrams, PFDs.
Like flowcharts.
Yeah, basically. Visualizing how work actually gets done helps you spot jams, inefficiencies really quickly. Second, standing meetings. They help the organization, as he puts it, run like a Swiss clock.
It's about embedding the system into the daily routine, not just relying on people remembering things.
Yeah, exactly. Building wisdom and good processes right into the machine itself.
All right, but even the best machines need maintenance. Right. They break down. Diagnostics time.
And the key mindset here is, mistakes are okay. Expected, even. What's not okay is failing to learn from them.
Which needs that culture of radical truth and transparency we keep mentioning. People have to feel safe pointing out errors.
Absolutely critical. If people are afraid, you'll never know what's really broken. Once that safety is there, you use practical tools, like taste the soup.
Meaning?
Go look at the work yourself. Check the quality directly. Don't just rely on reports. Then there's probe 2 levels down. Talk to your direct reports. Get the unfiltered view.
Skipping a level to get closer to the ground truth makes sense.
And pull on suspicious threads. Don't ignore those little nagging things. They often point to bigger issues. Finally, use an error log. Track mistakes systematically. Look for patterns. Turn failures into data.
Okay, so you found a problem using these methods. Now comes that crucial question again.
Right. The one that trips up a lot of managers. Is the responsible party incapable, or is the design bad?
And the temptation is always to blame the person.
Always. But the engineer, the machine designer, forces themselves to analyze the system first. Dalio even says root causes are often adjectives.
Adjectives, like
It's not just Bob forgot the report. Maybe Bob is overwhelmed because the process is inefficient or the role is unclear. See, it points to the system.
that's a powerful framing. It shifts the focus from blame to, well, fixing the underlying issue.
And Dalio argues that defaulting to checking the design first is just way more effective long term. Fixing a system helps everyone. Replacing one person in a broken system, Not so much.
It all comes back to that idea. A well-oiled system is more reliable, more scalable than just relying on brilliant individuals.
You got it. Relying only on stars creates fragility, single points of failure. The goal is a system that endures.
So the big takeaway seems to be that this machine metaphor actually puts the control back in your hands. You're the engineer.
Exactly, for your work, for your life. So let's make this really practical for everyone listening.
Okay, actionable takeaway number 1.
Map a personal workflow. Pick something you do regularly. Morning routine, email management, whatever. Sketch out a simple process flow diagram.
Just draw the steps.
Yeah. Then look for the friction, the wasted steps, the bottlenecks. And ask, how can I redesign this little machine to be smoother, more reliable?
I like that. Okay, takeaway number 2.
Identify a systemic problem. Think about a recurring issue, maybe at work, maybe at home, something that keeps happening.
And resist the urge to just blame someone.
Resist that urge. Ask the Dalio question. Is the person incapable or is the design bad? Try to find one flaw in the system, the process, the communication, the roles, and think about one small design change you could try.
It's about shifting from blame to design thinking.
Precisely. Because ultimately, our work, our teams, our lives, they are systems. Systems we can observe, diagnose, and improve.
It's that constant loop: design, fail, diagnose, redesign. That's how things get better. The engine of evolution, really.
Well said. And that set this up nicely for next time.
Right. Next time on the Deep Dive, we're tackling a huge input into our machine, reality itself. We'll be diving into facing reality, knowing your purpose, and overcoming barriers.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really peeling back the layers on one of Ray Dalio's core ideas: facing reality, knowing your purpose, overcoming barriers.
Yeah, and it's not just about, thinking positively.
No, not at all. It's about becoming what he calls a hyperrealist, really seeing things as they actually are, not just how we wish they were.
Exactly. Dalio puts it pretty bluntly, doesn't he? He says, every time you confront something painful, you are at a potentially important juncture. You have the opportunity to choose healthy and painful truth or unhealthy but comfortable delusion.
Wow. Stark choice. And we're here to figure out how to choose that truth, right? The healthy, painful one.
That's the goal. Because hyperrealist sounds maybe a bit intense, but it's actually super pragmatic.
Right. It's like he says truth, or more precisely, an accurate understanding of reality, is the essential foundation for any good outcome. You just can't get where you want to go with a bad map.
You really can't. And he boils it down quite elegantly, actually, to a formula. Dreams plus reality plus determination equals a successful life.
Dreams plus reality plus determination.
Okay, and that reality part is crucial. It means unflinching acceptance, not just of the world, but your own stuff too, your weaknesses.
Yeah, the uncomfortable truths about ourselves. He points to nature, doesn't he? How it operates by impartial laws.
He does. The gazelle and the hyenas example, harsh.
It is harsh, but effective, as he'd say.
Yeah.
For us, though, the hyenas aren't external. Usually they're internal.
Exactly. Our own ego, our blind spots, those are the things keeping us in, delusion sometimes.
And tackling those is foundational for everything else he talks about, like his 5-step process for problem solving or idea meritocracy.
Absolutely non-negotiable. You need that reality check first.
Okay, so you commit to seeing reality. Step 1. What's step 2? What do you do with that clear picture?
Well, then you figure out your purpose within that reality. What do you actually want to achieve?
And he makes a distinction here, right? Between vague stuff like, I want to be happy, and something specific, measurable.
Totally. Like $500 in recurring revenue by December 31st. Something concrete you can aim at.
Because, as he says, and this is a big one, while you can have virtually anything you want, you can't have everything you want.
That hits home. It's not meant to be negative, though. It's strategic. It forces you to prioritize what really matters.
And it's your energy. And that purpose, ideally, should connect to something deeper.
Yes, he talks about fundamental human needs, meaningful work, and meaningful relationships. Finding that alignment gives you the grit, the determination to push through the tough stuff.
Because there will be tough stuff.
Yeah.
Pain, mistakes, failures.
Oh, definitely. And that's where his next big idea comes in. It's basically pain plus reflection equals progress.
Pain plus reflection, progress. Simple, but hard. Our instinct facing that, psychic pain of screwing up is usually fight or flight.
Right. Blame someone else, make excuses, just try to forget it happened.
But Dalio says, do the opposite. Go to the pain rather than avoid it. which sounds counterintuitive.
It does. But he argues the pain isn't really the problem. It's the signal that a problem exists, like potential improvements screaming at you.
Like a check engine light. The light isn't the issue. Ignoring it is.
Precisely. So facing your weaknesses isn't admitting defeat. It's the first step to actually dealing with them. Failure becomes data.
And the key skill then becomes staying calm enough in that painful moment to actually reflect. That's the meta skill, maybe?
I think so. That ability to reflect leads directly to his big overarching principle: evolve or die.
Stark again. But it makes sense. That's the law of nature, of markets, of personal growth. Adapt based on what reality is telling you.
Adaptation is the outcome of that pain plus reflection loop done right.
Okay, but how? How do you actually make yourself look at these painful things when everything inside you wants to look away?
That's the tool. Radical open-mindedness. That's how you overcome the ego and the blind spots we talked about.
Radical open-mindedness, meaning
It means genuinely, sincerely believing you might not have the best answer. You trade that need to be right for the joy of finding out what's actually true.
replacing attachment to being right with the joy of learning. That's powerful. It enables the reflection part.
Exactly. It makes the whole process possible.
So let's try and wrap this up. The path Dalio lays out starts with this, like brutal honesty about reality.
Yep. Unflinching realism.
Then defining a clear purpose within that reality, prioritizing.
Knowing what you're aiming for.
Then embracing pain, not as failure, but as a signal, a chance to reflect and learn,
Pain plus reflection equals progress.
which drives adaptation, evolution. And the key tool for all of this is that radical open-mindedness.
You got it. Values truth over being right.
Okay, so how can people start applying this? Any practical steps?
Yeah, 2 quick things. First, try a reality check on a goal. Pick a big goal. List maybe the top 3 uncomfortable truths or obstacles you've been kind of avoiding.
The stuff you don't want to think about.
Exactly. Then just pick one. And decide on one small, concrete thing you can do this week to actually confront it. Just one small step.
Okay, confront one uncomfortable truth. What's the second one?
Second is connect to your core purpose. Find maybe 15 quiet minutes. Ask yourself, what is my fundamental purpose? Meaningful work, meaningful relationships.
Get clear on the why.
Right. Then look at your calendar for the last week. How much time actually went towards that purpose versus, distractions or less important stuff? It's about getting objective data.
Seeing if your actions align with your stated purpose. That's a reality check in itself.
It really is.
Confronting reality, knowing your purpose. This really sets the foundation for making better choices down the line, which is actually where we're headed next time.
Perfect segue.
Join us then as we dive into the art of decision-making.
Okay, think about the last really tough decision you had to make. Was it all logic, like a spreadsheet? Or was it, mostly wrestling with your emotions?
Yeah, for most people, big choices are,
Yeah,
well, they're messy, aren't they?
exactly. But Ray Dalio, he sees effective decision-making differently. Not as some kind of magic, but more like engineering, building a reliable system based on principles, not just gut feelings.
And what's really interesting is this whole framework, it didn't come out of thin air. It actually came from a really painful, very public failure he had early on, a bad bet.
Right. That experience, it basically showed him his gut alone wasn't enough. It could actually lead to disaster. So these principles we're going to talk about, think of them like scar tissue from that failure, wisdom learned the hard way.
Mm-hmm. A framework built to handle the tough stuff.
So that's our mission for this deep dive, to really unpack Dalio's blueprint, how you can become more of an architect of your own choices.
And we're focusing on 5 key habits, right?
Yep. 5 core principles. First, how to tame that emotional brain. Second, the power of knowing when not to decide. Third, thinking about those ripple effects, the dominoes.
Fourth, how to actually synthesize different views to find the truth. And fifth, how to think about risk and probability, like making calculated bets.
Let's jump into that first one. Dalio believes the biggest threat, the real enemy of good decisions, is harmful emotions.
Yeah, that ego barrier and our blind spots. We get so caught up in wanting to be right.
That we stop looking for what is right.
Okay.
Exactly.
So his solution, his antidote, is this 2-step process. It's simple, but powerful. First you learn, then and only then you decide.
Learn, then decide. Okay, so it's like a mental speed bump.
Pretty much. Or think of it as a cognitive firewall. It forces a kind of cooling off period The goal is to shift your thinking away from that reactive emotional part of the brain, the amygdala.
And engage the more logical part, the prefrontal cortex. Makes sense.
Exactly. Step one, the learning part, isn't passive. Dalio calls it a radically open-minded exploration of reality.
So you're not just looking for data that confirms what you already think.
No, definitely not. You actively seek out believable people who disagree with you, people who've tackled similar problems successfully and can explain their thinking. You use logic, reason.
You stress test your own view. Only after you've done that homework, that objective exploration, do you move to step two, making the actual decision.
Right. So it forces objectivity before action.
Okay, that leads nicely into the second principle. We often think leaders need to be fast, decisive, but Dalio says there's huge power in, well, knowing when not to have an opinion.
Yeah, embracing not knowing as a position of strength, of maximum potential. It feels a bit weird at first, doesn't it?
It really does, like you should always have an answer.
But this isn't about putting things off indefinitely. It's a strategic choice. The principle is prioritize by weighing the value of additional information against the cost of not deciding.
Okay, break that down. Decisions as investments.
Kind of. Pausing is like capital preservation. You're holding onto your resources, your time, your focus, until you're more confident the investment of making a decision will pay off based on better info.
Gotcha. So, like, if a competitor's about to launch something, the cost of waiting too long is super high, right? Maybe a quick, good enough decision is better.
Exactly. But if you're thinking about, say, a massive career change,
Then waiting a few weeks to get more advice or do more research, the cost of that delay is pretty low, but the value of the extra insight could be huge.
precisely, rushing into big things with bad info, that usually ends badly.
Which brings us to principle 3, thinking in dominoes. I mean, who hasn't been tempted by that immediate reward, that first order consequence?
Oh, definitely. That donut example is perfect. Tastes great now.
Right. But Dalio says tons of bad decisions happen because we get seduced by tempting first-order consequences and ignore the second and third-order ones down the line. It's fighting that present bias.
So how do you actually do that? He suggests using a mental tool called the consequence chain. You consciously map out not just the immediate effect, but what happens next and after that.
Like playing chess with your choices.
Sort of, yeah. It's about forcing yourself to choose what you really want long-term over just what feels good right now.
So the donut, first order, pleasure. Third order, if it's a habit, maybe poor health, lower energy.
Or in business, cut in the training budget. First order, quick profit boost, looks good on the quarterly report.
But third order, maybe a year later, your team's less innovative, good people start leaving, you lose your edge.
Exactly. It forces that long game perspective.
Okay, so if you're considering consequences, you need good information and diverse perspectives, which leads to principle 4, building a synthesis engine.
Right. In what Dalio calls an idea meritocracy, the goal isn't winning the argument. It's finding the actual truth, the best path.
So it's less about debate, more about synthesis, combining the best bits of different ideas.
Precisely. Getting your own thinking pressure tested against the smartest, most believable people.
And how do you identify those believable people?
Dalio has criteria. 1, have they repeatedly solved similar problems successfully? And 2, can they explain their reasoning really well?
Makes sense. Not just someone with an opinion, but someone with a track record and clear logic.
Yeah. And he advises triangulating. Get input from maybe 2 or 3 such believable people, ideally with different viewpoints. That helps you see the full picture.
And the other part?
Practicing assertive open-mindedness. Basically, argue your case strongly based on your logic, but be genuinely open to the possibility you might be wrong. Don't let your ego get tied to your idea.
Easier said than done sometimes. Okay, final principle, number 5. This one sounds a bit more mathy, betting on reality.
It is a bit. The core idea is make your decisions as expected value calculations. Think like a professional odds maker.
Expected value.
Right.
Okay, so you're weighing the potential rewards against the potential downsides.
Exactly. But you're also factoring in the probability of each outcome. The basic formula is like expected value, reward, X probability reward. Penalty, X probability of penalty.
So it forces you to quantify things a bit more, not just, this might be good.
Right. And Dalio stresses 2 key things here. First, don't mistake possibilities for probabilities. Just because something could happen doesn't mean it's likely. Focus on what's probable.
Good point. Avoid wishful thinking. And the second,
The absolute non-negotiable rule, avoid the risk of ruin. Always. Make sure the chance of an outcome that could completely wipe you out is basically zero.
Don't bet the farm, essentially.
You got it. And honestly, the real power here isn't just getting a precise number, it's the mental exercise itself. It forces you to be logical, to look for actual data, and to really face up to uncertainty.
So it improves the process of deciding, even if sometimes random luck means a good process still leads to a bad outcome, or vice versa.
Exactly. Over the long run, a better process leads to better results.
Okay, let's quickly recap. We've covered using logic over emotion, knowing when to pause, thinking long-term consequences, synthesizing ideas, and betting on probabilities. Powerful stuff.
Definitely a solid framework.
So for you listening, here are a couple of quick exercises to try. First, second-order consequence thinking. Take a big decision you're facing. Map out the obvious first consequence. Then brainstorm 2 or 3 possible second-order effects, and then maybe one third-order one to see where it leads.
Good one.
And the second, try keeping the probabilistic journal. For a decision where there's uncertainty, jot down your assumptions. Then assign rough percentages, your best guess to the best case and worst case scenarios happening.
Yeah, even just putting rough numbers down forces you to move from just hoping or worrying into actually assessing.
It's a shift towards logical assessment.
And remember, this isn't magic. It's not a one-time fix. Dalio would say it's a lifelong thing. Practice, reflection, tweaking your principles as you learn. Every mistake is actually data.
A chance to refine the machine.
Right. There's real satisfaction, he says, in struggling well, in improving how you navigate challenges.
So we've got these tools now for making better choices, but that raises a question for next time. How do we make sure we keep adapting? How do our principles themselves evolve over time?
Ooh, good question. Staying agile.
Exactly. We'll dive into that in our next deep dive. Evolution and adaptation, the lifelong journey of improvement. Welcome to another deep dive.
Great to be here.
So today we're unpacking something pretty profound. It's what Ray Dalio calls the ultimate principle.
Right, the single biggest force out there.
And it's not, profit or power, not even truth, surprisingly.
No, according to Dalio, it's evolution. Simple as that, almost.
He literally says it's the only thing that is permanent and it drives everything.
Which is a huge statement.
Huge. And our mission today is really to explore this, why it's not just like biology class evolution.
Exactly. It's more like a fundamental law of reality governs everything.
And it leads to this idea he has that perfection doesn't exist.
Right. It's just a goal, something that keeps that adaptation process going forever.
Which, when you think about it, changes everything for how we approach things.
It really does. What I find so transformative here is how it just flips the script on success.
How so?
Well, it stops being this, fixed point you arrive at.
Ah, okay.
Now, instead, success is the process, the adaptation itself.
That kind of takes the pressure off, doesn't it? The fear of failing.
Completely.
Yeah.
Suddenly, mistakes aren't failures. They're just data.
Essential data points, yeah, for your own evolution.
Exactly. So in this deep dive, we'll look at Dalio's, his practical 3-phase model for life.
Okay.
Then we'll get into how you actually become that relentless learner, through what he calls radical open-mindedness.
And that formula he talks about, pain plus reflection.
Equals progress. Yeah, that core idea, pain plus reflection, progress. And it all loops back to, well, how do we actually do this? How do we live this sort of cosmic dance day to day?
Okay, let's dig in. So Dalio sees evolution not just biologically, but as, a fundamental law.
Yeah, law of reality itself.
He points out how everything from tiny particles to whole galaxies is evolving. Things seem to die or disappear.
But they're just reconfiguring, right, into new evolving forms. That's his point. It's constant change.
How does he illustrate that on the cosmic scale? I mean, it sounds so vast.
It is vast. But the core idea is that change is the only constant. Adaptation is the response. Always.
And he says reality is optimizing for the whole, not for you. That's quite a thought.
It's a bit humbling, maybe, but also freeing. If you accept that constant change and that we have to adapt.
Then maybe failure isn't so scary.
Exactly. It pushes you to become what he calls a hyper-realist.
Which means
someone who just relentlessly tries to figure out how reality actually works, its unchangeable laws.
And then work with them, not against them.
Precisely.
Okay, so if this is this huge cosmic force, how does it actually show up in our lives? You mentioned a life cycle model.
Yeah, he breaks it down into a pretty predictable 3-phase cycle for humans.
What are the phases?
So phase 1, learning independence. You're basically soaking things up, guided by others, building foundations.
Makes sense. Childhood, early career, maybe?
And then comes phase two,
Yeah.
working and interdependence. This is where you're actively building, taking charge, striving for success, working with others.
Where most people spend a lot of their adult life, I guess.
For sure.
Yeah.
But the really interesting part, and maybe the hardest transition, is into phase three, freedom and contribution.
Freedom and contribution, what does that look like?
It's shifting your focus from being the striver focused on your own wins to being a contributor, where your biggest success is actually helping others succeed. Orchestrating things so they run well without you needing to be hands-on.
Letting go. That sounds difficult.
It is. And Dalio says just clinging to phase two, refusing to make that shift, that's basically stagnation. You stop evolving.
So if evolution's the path, learning is the engine, but not just book learning, right?
No. It's deeper, experiential.
Uh.
And the key to firing up that engine, he says, is radical open-mindedness.
Which isn't just being generally open-minded. It sounds more active.
Much more active. It's this intense curiosity. And it starts by admitting you might be wrong, that you have blind spots.
How do you cultivate that? It sounds uncomfortable.
Well, often it comes from pain, actually.
Great.
Like Dalio getting hammered in the markets, realizing he was totally wrong.
Okay.
So you actively seek out what he calls thoughtful disagreement.
From believable people who know what they're talking about.
Exactly. And you ask questions to understand their logic, not just to push your own view.
So you're trying to see the world through their eyes?
Kind of. It helps you spot your own blind spots. And that pain of being wrong, it stops feeling like shame and starts feeling like an opportunity.
An opportunity to learn something crucial.
Yeah. It's the foundation for his whole idea meritocracy concept. Best idea wins, no matter who had it.
Okay, this is where it gets really practical, I think, that formula. Pain plus reflection, progress.
Yes. This is maybe the most powerful tool he offers for personal evolution.
Pain is a signal, right? Something's wrong. But our instinct is usually to run away from it.
Absolutely. Avoidance is natural. But the magic happens in the reflection part.
Consciously choosing not to run away.
Right. Developing that reflex to just calmly look at the psychic pain, diagnose why it's happening. What's the root cause?
And that diagnosis leads to
progress.
Yes.
That's the adaptation. You learn something, you adjust, you create a new principle or modify an old one, so you hopefully avoid that specific pain again.
He uses his own huge market loss as the prime example, doesn't he?
He does. Immense pain led to deep reflection, which led to the core principles that Bridgewater runs on today. It creates this feedback loop.
A loop that keeps evolving your principles.
It makes you what Taleb calls anti-fragile. You don't just bounce back from shocks.
You get stronger because of them.
Exactly.
Okay, so pulling this all together, what's the big takeaway for you listening to this?
Yeah, what does it all mean?
Well, Dalio's message seems to be about consciously jumping into this evolutionary flow. Your success, your fulfillment, it kind of depends on how well you adapt.
So being that hyper-realist, accepting reality.
Understanding those life cycles we talked about. Committing to learning, seeking out disagreement.
And crucially, having the guts to face the pain, reflect, and build better principles from it.
Right. It's not about having perfect principles from day one.
No, definitely not. The real goal isn't some final perfect list. It's about building your own personal machine for evolving your principles.
The process is more important than the current content.
Yes. That process, fueled by that radical open-mindedness and, frankly, a healthier relationship with pain, that's what makes you adaptable, anti-fragile.
Okay, so let's make this actionable. We've got 2 takeaways for you.
First one, conduct a principle review. Simple but powerful.
How does it work?
Set aside maybe 30 minutes. Look back at a recent situation where you felt significant pain as a mistake, a frustration, something that went wrong.
Okay.
And ask yourself, what principle, or maybe lack of a principle, led me here?
And then?
Write down a new or tweaked principle to handle similar situations better in the future. Like if you were totally overwhelmed because you said yes to everything.
Your new principle might be.
Maybe something like, before I agree to any new commitment, I first have to identify one thing I'll stop doing.
Makes sense. Concrete. Okay, what's the second takeaway?
Second, try a discomfort challenge.
A discomfort challenge sounds uncomfortable.
Well, yeah, that's the point. Evolution means pushing boundaries, getting outside your comfort zone.
So what kind of challenge?
Pick something small this week that makes you feel a bit uneasy. Maybe asking a colleague you trust, a believable person, for really honest, maybe even brutal, feedback on something you did,
Ooh, okay.
or maybe volunteering for a small task you know you're not naturally good at.
What's the goal? Not necessarily to ace the task, right?
Exactly. The goal isn't perfection. It's to practice feeling uncomfortable and then reflecting on what you learned from just being in that state.
Just experiencing the discomfort and seeing what comes up.
Right. Because as Dalio writes, and this really sums it up, evolving is life's greatest accomplishment and its greatest reward.
It's the path. The path to getting stronger, wiser, and finding more meaning.
That's the core of it. Conscious evolution.
Welcome back to the deep dive. So you've been with us exploring Ray Dalio's world, right? His whole thing about truth, that 5-step process, the idea of meritocracy. We've basically been looking over the shoulder of, well, a master architect studying his blueprints. But today, things change a little. We're shifting gears. It's not just about understanding Dalio's plans anymore. It's about using that insight to draw up your own blueprints. This session is all about living your principles. Because, Dalio's real gift wasn't just sharing his rules. It was, I think, pushing you to think independently. Decide what you believe. Write your own recipes for getting what you want out of life. So our mission today is pretty straightforward. Give you a clear, practical way to craft your own principles. A system for, deliberate, continuous growth. Okay, so first things first. Why? Why bother with principles? Dalio has this great metaphor. Life feeling like a blizzard, just overwhelmed. Choices, data, emotions swirling around. You can barely see, easy to get lost.
Yeah, that blizzard image really hits home. And principles, well, they're your compass in that storm. They're these fundamental truths, these preloaded decisions, basically. They guide you when everything else is just noise. Rules that, as Dalio puts it, always hold true. And the absolute key thing, gotta write them down.
Write them down. Why is that specific act so important?
Because writing forces clarity. It takes a fuzzy value like, I want to be honest, and makes it concrete. Actionable, like Dalio's rule. Never say anything about someone you wouldn't say to them directly. That's specific. When you codify them, you're essentially programming your own mind. You do the hard thinking when you're calm, so you have the answers when things get messy. It becomes almost like your personal operating system. Self-chosen.
A self-chosen OS. I like that. So the why is clear, navigate the blizzard.
Yeah.
But the big question is how. How do you actually forge these principles from just living? What's the method?
Okay, the how. It starts, maybe surprisingly, with pain. Your mistakes, your failures. Those moments that sting, that's the raw material. The best stuff, actually. Dalio says, go to the pain, don't run from it. So, first step. Start what you might call a pain journal or an error log. Seriously, write down recent stumbles, things that caused you psychic pain.
Psychic pain. Okay.
Yeah, and the mindset here is vital. Just record it objectively, take ownership. Dalio is big on this. Don't blame bad outcomes on anyone but yourself. Forget looking good.
That sounds confronting. Just facing your own mess-ups head-on like that. Is that where people often stumble first?
Oh, absolutely. The ego kicks in, right? We all want to look good, even just to ourselves. But this isn't about beating yourself up. It's data collection. Honest data for getting better.
Okay, data collection, not self-flagellation. Got it. What's next after recording the pain?
Second, you diagnose the root cause. For every painful moment you logged, you ask why. And you keep asking why, like a little kid.
Yeah.
You're digging past the surface. Dalio makes this crucial distinction. Proximate cause, that's usually an action, a verb like I forgot, versus the root cause. The root cause is the reason, often an adjective describing you, like I am disorganized. That takes radical self-honesty. It's the difference between slapping a bandage on and actually healing the wound.
So moving from what happened to why I let it happen, basically, the underlying pattern in me.
Exactly. And then third step, you codify the principle, you write the actual rule, you turn that diagnosis, that root cause, into a clear instruction for future you. There's a kind of formula that works well. When situation X happens, I will do action Y in order to address my root cause Z.
Ah, okay. Can you give a quick example of that formula in action?
Sure. Let's stick with disorganization. Your root cause is I am disorganized. So your principle might be, when I get assigned any new project, I will immediately open my calendar and block out specific work times in order to counteract my natural disorganization. See, it's precise. It's a behavioral algorithm, not just a wish.
Right. Turns vague intention into a specific action plan. Okay. Makes sense? Is that it? Write the rule and you're done.
Not quite. The fourth and maybe most ongoing step is you stress test and evolve these principles. They aren't commandments carved in stone. They're hypotheses, living things. So you apply the principle, see what happens. Did it actually work? Did it lead to a better outcome? And then this is key. You build your own personal idea meritocracy.
Like Dalio's work concept, but for your own life.
Exactly. Find believable people. Smart, successful people you trust, who aren't afraid to disagree with you and can explain why. Share your new principle with them. Ask them, seriously, punch holes in this. Tell me where I'm wrong. What am I missing? Their challenges reveal your blind spots. That feedback loop makes your principles truly robust. It keeps you learning.
Wow, okay. Sharing your freshly minted principle, which came from your own diagnosed flaw. That takes some guts. Is that a major sticking point?
It definitely can be. It requires vulnerability. But you just can't see all your own weaknesses. That outside perspective, it's gold. Absolutely essential if you're serious about evolving.
All right, this is incredibly practical. So for everyone listening, if you're ready to stop just studying and start building your own blueprint, here are 2 things you could do, like right now. First, start that personal principles list today. Pick one recent pain point, something that bugged you or where you messed up. Diagnose that root cause, be honest. Then write out your very first principle. Use that when X, I will Y format. And hey, to help with this, we put together a simple first principle journal template. It's a PDF. You can download it from our site. Just guides you through experience, diagnosis, principle. Second challenge, once you have that first draft of a principle, share it. Talk it over with one of those believable people you trust. Just explaining it will help clarify it for you and their honest feedback. That's your first invaluable stress test.
Absolutely. And remember, this isn't a task you finish. It's a lifelong practice, an ongoing evolution. Your principles, they should change and grow as you change and grow. That's why setting aside regular time for principle reviews, maybe monthly, maybe quarterly, is so important. Keeps your personal operating system up to date and effective. Dalio said he first started writing his principles down for his grandkids, so they'd have his hard-won wisdom even after he was gone. He worried that for most successful people, their best insights just die with them, never get passed on because they weren't written down. Think about that. By doing this work, by codifying your hard-won wisdom, you're not just making better decisions for yourself now, you're potentially creating a legacy, something lasting for you and maybe for the people you care about too. So, start today.
That's all for this episode of the Deep Dive Cast. Thanks for joining us. We hope you gained some valuable insights. Be sure to tune in next time for another deep dive into the world's best ideas. Until then, keep learning and growing.